and Facebook, Avi. Hi, welcome. Bruchim Abbaim, everyone. Filling up quickly here as we get going on our last webinar of the season. Hello, Ed, Jonathan. I'm saying hello to our board members, Carl, our valuable and hardworking board members and board members emeritus in the United States and Canada. Hello, Martin. Oh, it's so good to see everybody here from all over. Please say hello in the chat. Let us know where you're tuning in from. See a lot of familiar names and some new ones. So welcome to everyone. My name is Jay Shofet. I'm the Director of Development for the Society for the Protection of Nature in Israel. Bruchim Abbaim Lagam L'Israelim Po, L'Israelim Ba'aretz U'B'chul. Welcome to the Israelis as well, and to all the new people, and to our veteran webinar people. This is our 24th webinar of the year. I believe last year we had 34, I think, 33. So amazing that you guys are all supporting us this whole time in this what we thought was going to be a brief COVID situation. Can't believe we're heading into our second Christmas season in lockdown and in confusion in the world and in Israel. So sorry for all of you who had planned to come to Israel this December. I know many people like that who are very disappointed now. Hopefully we can see you here soon. Early in 2022, I hope. We have a mission coming up in March. Inshallah, God willing, it'll go off as planned, March 6th. Be in touch with us. Welcome everybody. We're here with over 50 people so far. So, and we're still climbing. A couple minutes, we'll get going. Hello to Charlottesville and Finger Lakes and Syracuse, one of my favorite places. I love watching it from the air when I fly New York, Toronto. Got a good friend, a former teacher in Skinny Atlas. Oh, hi in LA, Ossining, London, Manitoba. Looking forward to joining you in Israel in January. Well, please be in touch. Patricia. Toronto and Chicago and just all kinds of places. Pembroke Pines. Feel like I was there once. Northwest London. Not a good time there in COVID situation. Europe is looking problematic. East Bay, West Bay, San Francisco area. Great to see everybody. We'll get going in just a minute here. Respect the time of the people who are with us here on time and get right on to our business. We have with us this morning, this afternoon, this evening, Dan Alone. Dan is the brand newly minted Deputy Director of SPNI. He's the Director of our Department of Nature Protection and Nature and Environmental Protection. It's a kind of unwieldy named department, but it's the heart of what we do. It's our most important field department. Our motto or former motto is educate, love, protect. And we educate and we teach people to love nature in order to protect it, in order to protect it for future generations, in order to live sustainably within the natural bounty that surrounds us. And I'll just say, before Dan starts, welcome everybody who's joining us recently. I'm Jay Shofet, talking to you from Tel Aviv. With us is Dan Alone, the new Deputy Director of SPNI. Dan is also the visionary behind our Startup Nature project. Many of you have heard about, and you will all hear about it in the coming year. It's an incredible new project of rewilding former fish ponds and turning them into nature habitats, nature reserves, wetland habitats. It's a fascinating new project. We're just getting off the ground now, already with some successes. You'll hear about it. we're moving from nature protection to nature creation, nature recreation, nature rewilding. It's exciting for us. It's a great new project on the ground here, and I think we'll get going. Let me introduce Dan. A few minutes after the hour here, I'll, as Dan turns on his camera, I'll just again say Dan has been with SPNI, I believe, for 27 years. He's an ornithologist, one of the leading birders in Israel and I think around the world. You throw him in Central Park or in Port Point Pelee or Presqu'île or wherever, and he can find you birds. He's got a great staff. The birding department at SPNI, BirdLife Israel, is one of the most professional and fun to work with bunch of people. Our birding sites, the Jerusalem Bird Observatory next to the Knesset and Eilat, Magan Michael and Kfar Rupin and Ramat Negev, all these places are amazing birding sites, and we're taking care of them as we're taking care of all of Israel's nature and natural environments and its amazing biodiversity. Just as Dan gets going, and I'll give another I see people are still coming in. We'll give people just another minute, and I'll introduce really what Dan will probably say in the first couple of minutes, which is why we're protecting this nature. It's because Israel is at a crucial junction in the world. Most of you probably know we're at a crucial bottleneck of one of the most important migration fly routes in the world for all the birds most of the birds from the Eurasian landmass, Central and Eastern Europe and Western Asia fly right over our little country on their way to Africa every fall and come back every spring. And it's our duty to protect their fly route and to give them places to rest and refuel, safe passage over Israel. And our habitats are incredible. We're at the intersection of different climatic zones. We have biodiversity from Europe, from Asia, and from Africa. And it's all in this very rapidly developing, densely populated country of ours. And that's why nature protection is all the more crucial here in Israel. And that's what we'll hear about today from Dan. He'll talk about our successes of this past year and looking forward a little bit towards next year's challenges. So thank you very much, Dan, and take it away. We'll leave time for questions and answers. Please write your questions in the Q&A box if you can. Thanks very much, and welcome everybody. Thank you very much to all our supporters abroad and everybody who's here today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Good morning in America, good afternoon in Europe, good evening for us in Israel. Sunday for us, it's the first day of the week, so it was a long day for us, and I hope you have a good Sunday and good rest today in the rest of the world. I will start and say that these pictures I put on the right or left side of my first slide is to remind me why for so many years I joined this amazing organization, the Society for the Protection of Nature in Israel. I started my nature trail, if you want, about 40 years ago when I started to watch bird. As Jay said, I'm an avid bird watcher, growing up in the northern part of Israel, enjoying birds like this turtle dove on the left upper part of the slide, and many other birds. And also enjoying when I go birding and when I go around the trails and hiking in Israel. This beautiful gazelle on the right upper part of the slide. And of course, when I go to the Mediterranean, enjoying our fish and wildlife in the ocean or in the Mediterranean, and of course, everything is possible because of them so good and productive habitat that we have in Israel. And I put in this slide one slide from the north, from the Galilee, and one from the Negev. The Negev desert, as many of you know, is a very rich desert. Before I go forward with my presentation, I also want to say that as a bird watcher, as a nature, I would say expert, I also evident. I can record the big changes, a dramatic change that our nature is going through. For example, as I mentioned before, this turtle dove. In the past, when I was a kid, when I was in my first bird watching year, I used to see sometimes flocks of thousands, which is not common anymore. And again, this is the reason why we at SPNI working so hard to making sure that our wildlife and plants and habitat are still exist, and we can protect them and enjoy them for us, for people who lives in Israel, for people coming to enjoy Israel from abroad, but also because it's very important. Israel is on the junction of three continents. Israel is bottlenecks for bird migrations, but also Israel is an important place for animals that pass on ground between our neighbors' country and Israel. As Jay mentioned, Israel is very important habitat and place for biodiversity. So what we are doing in the SPNI for forever, I would say, and we did it also last year, 2021, is first of all working to protect our threatened ecosystem, not only by protecting them, also by working hard in the planning system of Israel to making and creating new reserve and protected area. And we just finalize a long process done by our excellent planning team to probably making sure that another 500,000 acre, 2 million dunam, as we say in Israel, of important habitat in Israel will become nature reserve in the coming few years. This is part of a strategic plan for open spaces in Israel, which we just managed to pass through one of the important planning committee of Israel, and it will go to the last committee, the National Planning Committee, by the middle of January, and hopefully it will approve, and then we can start making this process of creating this 500,000 acre of nature reserve. Another process that we did during this planning system is to create a network of ecological corridors. Ecological corridors is the way to networking this nature reserve and protected area. The ecological corridors can be non-protected area, can be agriculture area, areas that animals can move between one protected area to another. So Israel has approved ecological corridors policy. And we are now, again, our planning people working now to approve this ecological corridors map in all the planning committees of Israel. So by the end of next year, we hope to have Israel more protected because of effective ecological corridors. Another things that we put into this strategic plan is a holistic planning for streams, for our rivers, and I will talk about it later. Unfortunately, we can't only go through a planning system, and we can't only work for new areas. We always have to lobbying and protecting important habitats. Unfortunately, there are few new roads that we need to campaign against them. One of them is road number 9 near the city of Hadera, which is going in a very important area. So we are lobbying and working in order to prevent this road. As of some other roads, we have about 5 or 6 roads that we think needs to be cancelled, or the planning needs to be cancelled in order to protect important area. Few weeks ago, we had an amazing success while the Minister of Transportation in Israel was trying to approve a new planning for 6 new marines in Israel.
Marinas.
Sorry. Yeah, little harbors, if you want, for yachts. From Tel Aviv in the south, Bat Yam, a little south of Tel Aviv, to Nahariya in the north. Our excellent team of campaigning and lobbyists, etc., work very hard and managed to prevent this plant. And at the end of the day, after a long day of discussion at one of the planning committee of Israel, we managed to cancel 5 of these 6. We still have another committee to work, the national committee, and we hope that next year we manage to cancel this project for the future. This is, I would say, Israel with such a short cost and such a threatened sea area doesn't need this new developing in the sea. So it's a good news for our Mediterranean. As probably many of you hear in the news, when you read a newspaper or see news from Israel, housing is one of the most problematic problem of Israel. We at SPNI, we know that people needs to live somewhere, but we believe that there's enough places to build houses in Israel, and there's no need to go into open-landed and important habitat. And this is why we're still working very hard to stop bad planning for new housing. And we work hard in the beginning of this year against what we call the Vatmal. The Vatmal is a committee that goes, I would say, above the planning system of Israel. We managed to, I would say, reduce the damage of this committee of the Vatmal, And we hope that we are on a good land now. We still have a lot to work here. Housing is something that we will need to deal with for many, many years to go, and this is what we're going to do. Solar energy. Many of you may say, well, solar energy is the solution and not a problem. And yes, you are right. Solar energy is a way to reduce carbon emission. But the problem in Israel that Israel is such a small country with so small open lands and so many important habitats. So we believe that solar energy should be only mainly on a rooftop and other infrastructures, and not in open landed, as we can see on the left picture in this slide. We made quite a big work with the government in Israel, showing that about 50% of Israeli energy can come from solar panels on roofs and other infrastructures. And we work hard to make sure that there will be more solar energy on infrastructures and less on open landed. Of course, it's not 100%, but we are on a good land. I hope so. We work hard for that. Solar energy, again, important, but needs to be on the right places. Water and river restoration, one of our main issue in the last few years. Our goals is, of course, to reduce the pollutions of rivers from sewage, from factories, and etc. To restoring the water flow. That's mean that less water are taken from the rivers for drinking water and for agriculture. Israel take most of his drinking water today from the desalination from the sea. So there is less need for water coming from the rivers. So we work hard to make sure that our rivers back to be healthy and good and have good water flow. We also would like to promote integrated river basin. That's mean that the river should be, all the part of the river should be effective and working. We work very hard with the drainage systems of Israel. This is one of the biggest projects of our department today, working for promoted this integrated river basin planning for rivers. And of course, as always, SPNI work with the public to making sure that everybody is, that people that care about rivers is saying what they think and push the government and the authorities to protect the river. So I will, we did a lot of things this year. Our main step is to change the law regarding pollutions and the way that government allow sometimes pollutions in rivers by giving permission to factories and others to pollutions in the rivers. So we are working now on a new law to change this situation. One more issue is the issue of the springs, our natural springs. We work very hard to make sure that our springs are not anymore the source for water irrigation for agriculture, and water for agriculture can be taken from another sources and not from our natural springs. We work, this is for the example, around the Hula Valley, on the western part of the Golan Heights, and Divsha, the Divsha spring. And you can see in the right side where it's streaming nicely, and on the left side where there's no water because water is taken for irrigation. I will go into our marine program. Probably many of you saw the excellent webinar gave by Alon Rothschild, our marine coordinator. For many years, as many other places, not only Israel, the sea was not in our focus. We work very hard on the ground, but we didn't put attention into our sea, either the Mediterranean, maybe a little bit more in the Red Sea, but our Mediterranean was not in a good not in our focus. So back in 2017, we started to work to create nature reserves in the Mediterranean. The first one was declared in 2019. The second one in 2020. As you can see, the third one was approved in 2021. And we have a few more to work. You can see the entire planning of our of the marine reserve in Israel. Hopefully, by the end of 2021, at the end of 2022, so we will approve all of them. We also work for the first reserve in the economical water zone, economic zone of Israel, and the first reserve has been, I would say, declared by the Ministry of Environment just a few months ago. It's the one near Palmachim. So as you can see, we work hard to a better protection of our marine, mainly to create a reserve. This is a great achievement by SPNI. So I think this is one of our really great achievement, not only in 2021, in the last 4 years or so. We also need to protect some of our fishes. As I mentioned, our birds and animal was very much protected since the 60s, but our marine fish and other animals in the sea were not. So one of the first fishes to be declared as a protected species was the groupers. As you can see, there are 2 species. One of them is now protected. The other one is only partly protected for another half a year. and we are now working to declare most of them protected species, so people cannot fish them. We again in the sea, we work with the public. Sea-Watch application is helping us to people that use that staying in the sea, either if there are fishermen or if there are sailors or just people that come to the sea. People report on illegal fishing, nets that they find. If divers, for example, they find what we call ghost nets, nets that left on them on the ground, and fishes are animals are caught, marine litter, etc. So Sea-Watch is a very effective system. We another project that we did for the last 5 or 6 years, and 2021 was a very good one, is TevaBiz. TevaBiz is working with business, working with corporate. So last year we worked with the Balkan wineries about their impacts on mammals and animals with En Netafim sewage treatment in Eilat to make it more suitable for birds. We work with the Cotton Council to reduce damage that they make to the nature around the fields. With the Golan Economic Company, the Golan is a very important area, and also light pollution prevention, mainly with roads. Urban nature, Israel, as many other places in the world, have a great nature in cities, in urban areas. As you can see here, some of the example. This is a map of where we, all the cities that our urban nature department is now working. As you can see, all over Israel, we do urban nature surveys, and then working with the municipalities to protect the important sites that come out from these surveys. We work, we have a great cooperation with the Ministry of Environment and with the municipalities. So we have a great success here as well. Startup Nature, as Jay mentioned before, Startup Nature is a new model that we created about a year ago in order to find new sites to create wetlands in Israel. I talked earlier about all the habitats that we need to protect. But unfortunately, speaking about the wetlands, we hardly have any wetland to protect, because all our wetlands was actually damaged and dry 50, 60, 70 years ago. So we need to recreate them, rewild them. The way we start doing that is by taking the, I would say, taking opportunity that we have, that the fish farms industry in Israel is now in economical problem situation, and we see that we can use these fish ponds in order to create a wetland. Here in the picture, on the bottom of the picture, you can see one of these places in Kfar Upin. It's an area of about 50 acres that at the beginning of this year, for the first time, we start to operate as an amazing wetland. And you can see the result on the top: blackstock, white stocks, and many other birds that using this amazing place. We, as many of you know, we work hard to ban the hunting of a few important species. One of them is the turtle dove. The turtle dove, the dove from the Bible, if you want, is become a rare species in Europe, Asia, and also here in Israel. And we are afraid that the turtle dove will become the next what's his name there? The next passerine dove from America, who that been extinct at the beginning of last century. So we work hard to stop the hunting of turtle doves. We managed to ban the hunting for 3 years, and also to do the same thing for the quail, both of them reducing rapidly. And we think that there is no, that we need to stop hunting of this species. So we hope that by next year, maybe the year after, we manage to make this 3 years ban for a permanent. Big problem in Israel as well as in Europe, poisoning of vultures. This poisoning are mainly done by people who grow goats and sheep and cows in big open lands up in the Galil, the Golan, and also down in the Negev. This picture is just from October. Down in the Negev, certain vultures was poisoning by one of these sheep owners who been a victim for predating or predators, sheep predated by wild dogs. Wild, I mean dogs that been escaped from their owners and become wild. So he couldn't find a way to deal with these dogs. He put a poisons. Nothing happened to the dogs. Well, one dog was found poisoning, but certain vultures, out of 230 vultures in Israel. So more than 5% of the Israeli population was poisoning in one day. We work hard to change the law. We work hard to change the situation, and we managed to reduce poisoning dramatically in Israel. But one event like that can, as I say, can take 5% of our population, and all the work we do to increase the population, working for vulture population, nesting, protecting, etc., is in danger because of this poisoning. This is one of our international event again. The turtle dove, champion of the flyway. Champion of the flyway is international events hundreds of people from all over the world coming to Israel to do what we call a bird race. The race is a way, of course, to raise money. In the last 6 years, we raised more than $500,000 to a project around the world that dealing with illegal hunting of birds. Turtle dove is one of them. Here you can see the group, the local group, the local Israeli champions from last autumn in the Hula. Last things about bird is our breeding bird atlas. We work hard to renew all our information about birds breeding areas in Israel. We use the system called eBird, created by Cornell Lab of Ornithology. And you can see the map of some bird species breeding in Israel. Our birding people working hard to making sure that we know where is the important sites for birds so we can better protect them. Thank you very much.
Wow, well, thank you very much, Dan. You're going to stop screen sharing. Great. Great. Wow, thank you. That was fascinating and very comprehensive overview. And you left lots of time for questions. Well, 20 minutes here, and there are lots of questions and lots of complex questions. Let me just start and try to be quick. And if I can, if I can answer them quickly, maybe I'll do that, and you can add to it if you need to hear. You can take this first one though, from Bob Schloss, who's been asking us questions over the webinars. Has SPNI worked collaboratively with international NGOs like the Nature Conservancy or Conservation International or African Wildlife Foundation or others? Would you expect benefits if you could do this?
Absolutely. SPNI is a member of IUCN, the International Union for Conservation of Nature. SPNI is a partner in BirdLife International. We work a lot with partners in Europe, here in the Middle East. In America, I just mentioned the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, but we work also with Audubon and Sierra and others. And yes, also in Africa, absolutely. We work a lot with partners all over the world, and yes, we think it's very effective.
Yep, and we hope to do so more in the future.
Yep.
Lucy asked about maps that can be viewed by the public. I'm not sure what she was referring to. All kinds of maps of Israel. We have maps of the ecological corridors, I believe, on our website in Hebrew for sure, I think in English. But contact us if you have something specific you need to look at. Obviously online there's all kinds of maps of Israel, and the Nature Reserve Authority has a map, I believe. Can you explain the term by use in connection with solar? Is that the phrase you use, Dan, or dual use?
Yeah, by use is a new way to look on solar panels in agriculture area. That means that we can still do agriculture and put solar energy on the above this agriculture by making the solar panels in a distance between them, so sunlight can go through. Israel is going into a pilot to see if what is the impact on agriculture, and if this is really creating the amount of energy that the government is producing. You can deal with that. I must say that I think that there's a risk in biousing because I think the risk is that after years of using this this system, there will be more and more panels, so there will be more close to each other because farmers may see it's working, and the whole issue of trying to allow space for agriculture, nature, and solar energy may fail, but we will have to see.
Okay, thanks. And that relates to the next question, which I'm going to take a stab at just in a sentence or two, because I've asked you this, Dan, many times. Wendy Hall asks, Ria Jazer asks about why not utilize the Negev for solar farms? And I have to say, I was my friend Yossi Abramowitz is a solar pioneer in Israel, and in 2011, I was at Kibbutz Keturah at the inauguration of Israel's first solar field. I thought it was the future. That was before I learned about the importance of Israel's biodiversity and the fact that the Negev is both a high value of biodiversity area as a desert, and it's very busy and occupied by military bases and other things. So that's really the quick answer. Anything you want to add to that, Dan? And she also asked, what about that mirrors program? And I know you feel strongly about that too.
Okay, so Jay, what you say is right. I mean, the Negev is such an important habitat, and I think the Negev is also where we have such an amazing landscape. And by putting solar panels, I think we can damage the Negev. But I also want to say that Israel energy consumptions is in the center. So if we create most of our energy in the Negev, we need to bring it to the center of Israel, meaning that we need to create these new lines, like electric lines, etc., more developing. So, like I say earlier in my talk, we need to making sure that first of all, Israel is putting most of his energy on roofs, in cities, in urban areas where most of the consumptions are. And then we should start think about other solutions.
So, while we're on the topic,
regarding the mirrors,
oh yeah,
this is an old-fashioned way to create energy. It's a big show with less energy, if I can say.
Yeah. And while we're on the topic, I see another question came in, so we'll discuss it. Well, what about the desert in Jordan? And we discussed this as well, Dan. People have read about now, we're going to be, for one, it makes a lot of sense to use a desert in Jordan that is closer to this population centers of Israel in terms of the getting the energy to where it's needed in Israel. And apparently, Dan, we're doing a survey, but we believe that the desert in Jordan has less of a high biodiversity value, that area of desert.
I must say, I hope so. I hope that, at least the developers and the people behind this idea mentions that they are going to make a very comprehensive ecological assessment, which I hope they're going to do, as we do in Israel. I don't want Israel to consume energy with a lower standard of ecological assessment that we do in Israel. If they do the same assessment in Jordan as we do in Israel, I'm happy.
Okay, thanks. Now Wendy's asking about the draft bill to protect the rivers and springs. What is its chance of passing? How do the members of Knesset feel about it, and what can Americans do to support such a bill?
To support what?
How could Americans support the bill?
Support the bill of what?
About nature protection, about river protection, protection of river and springs.
Donating SPNI, saying that you want this money goes to our river program. I think this is the best way you can help.
And what are its chances of passing?
The change for plastics.
What are the chances? How hard is it going to be to get this bill through?
I think we have a good chance. I must say I've been to the parliament, to the Knesset a few times last weeks, speaking about members of the parliament, of the Knesset. I think there's a good chance.
Yeah, interesting.
I must say that the two people in the parliament behind the law, because we need a member of the parliament to be behind it. One from the opposition, one from the coalition, one from the ultra-Orthodox. So I believe there's a good chance here.
Dan, I'm going to use this opportunity to update you. You mentioned our excellent planning division in SPNI. I was in Sakhnin the other day for the final meeting of a forum that's been meeting, a planning forum that's been meeting for the last year and a half. Under the auspices of the American Embassy, the US Embassy in Israel. We received quite a large grant to do this forum for sustainable planning in an area of the Galilee near the Arab city of Sakhnin. And we heard a presentation from an official of the Drainage Authority, or I think it was the Ministry of Agriculture's Drainage Division, and Itai Ettinger, who talked all about the basin theory of integrated river rehabilitation. And it was very heartwarming to hear a government official talk so professionally and in our language about river rehabilitation and this sort of holistic approach to living urban and living with rivers. So very interesting. And I wanted to update you on that. Harry Schaefer asked about biologist E.O. Wilson recommend a certain percentage be set aside for nature. Does SPNI have any goals along those lines? I think he's talking about the 30-30 program. Under roads or roads sunk into a tunnel. We do that sometimes. We've lobbied for that. There are a few, what do you call them? Land bridges for to create ecological corridors. That we work with the road authority for that. And then another question about solar panels in the desert, but I think we've covered that.
Yeah,
so
I want to mention that the ecological corridor that I was mentioned is not the corridor to pass the roads, it's corridors that networking between protected area, agriculture areas and etc.
Right, but sometimes in order to do that, we need to create land bridges, or he was wondering about tunnels that go under roads for animals.
Yeah.
And what about the percentage set aside for nature?
Yeah, the 30-30 that you mentioned, 30% of each habitat, of 30 different habitat. Israel is signing the treaty, the international treaty. This strategic program that I was mentioning in the beginning of my presentation is exactly that. 30% of each habitat. The only one we can't have 30% is wetlands. Which we hope to rewild and create new, new wetlands.
Okay. Question on, are there any efforts to encourage residents to create habitats for native plants and therefore insects and birds on their own properties, on balconies, in land surrounding apartments, buildings, roadsides, etc.? This is a growing movement here in the US. I mean, I would just say that, yes, we do this both in our urban nature work in our own urban nature sites. We're experts at this, and I think our communities do it as well, teaching community gardens. And I know on a regular basis, I have people who are moving to Jerusalem, and I have to call Elen at the JBO to ask them to help her tell them what plants to plant on their balconies to attract birds. So I don't think it's a movement yet here, but we're definitely working towards it. Yeah. Anything you want to add on that, Dan?
No, you basically say everything about it. Yeah.
And I'm going to answer this one too, because we're all so familiar with this. Harry asked, how long does it take rewilding to be completed? Well, you can answer how long it's going to be completed, but I know that about 2-3 weeks after we flooded the first site at Kfar Rupin, there were 80 species of birds seen at that site.
95.
95 species of birds, 3 weeks after we flooded a pond that had been abandoned for years. And in terms of completion, is there more? If we visit this next spring, Dan, will we see more birds, more species?
I hope so. Yeah.
Okay. But you get the idea, Harry. Nature gets back quickly once we let it go. Scott Lewis asked if you can elaborate a little bit, maybe a minute or two, Dan, on how we proceed. How do we identify spaces for doing these rewildings? And if you buy them, we don't buy them, we lease them. We lease land from kibbutzim that have fish ponds that are becoming or have become not profitable to them, and they're looking for other ways to make money on this agriculturally zoned land. We have the ability to lease the land still in its zone for agriculture and create nature reserves on it. That's basically and Dan and his team are going out there. We have 2 sites going already. We have another 5 or 6 sites that we've identified or begun to identify, and that project will be continuing. Anything else there, Dan?
No, I just want to add that one of the well, first of all, we are searching for an area that have been marshes and wetlands in the past. So we are not creating wetlands in an area which was not a wetland before. 2, we are searching for sites that can be a kind of self-sustained, so they can get water from streams and rivers, and we don't need to use pipes and things like that. So this is, and we already have a map of about 10 or 15 sites, and I'm sure that if we will have the ability, we can find many more of them.
Fascinating. Really one of the most innovative, incredible projects going on in Israel today, in the Middle East as well, I'd say. Wendy asks about, in addition to promoting renewable energy, are we pursuing energy efficiency, LED lights, electric cars, etc.? Not so much in our portfolio at SPNI. There are NGOs in Israel doing that. The Ministry of Environmental Protection is doing that, very important. It is a very important aspect of reducing our carbon footprint. But
I want to say something here, Jay. Most of the environmental movement is focused on important things like that. SPNI, yes, is the biggest environmental organization in Israel, but we are dealing with nature conservation. This is our core business. This is why we are here. And we're happy that our colleagues do other things. Every organization need to be focused on what is good at, and we believe that we are good in protecting nature, and this is what we do.
We do, but we do it in a broad sense, through many different avenues, top down and bottom up. Are we addressing the use of toxic herbicides and pesticides in agriculture and landscaping?
I must say that yes, we do, but I must say this is it's used to be a huge problem in the past. It is a problem, I think, today, but less because farmers are using better, I say better, not more than that, pesticides and herbicide. If we speak about poisoning of animals, all our poisoning is illegal use of poisoning, not the legal use of farmers. And this is very important. And this is why we work hard on this specific issue. And we don't need to work with the entire agriculture community.
True, interesting. And of course, we've used biological pest control, barn owls, which control rodents in the Jordan Valley, and insectivore bats, which eat, insects also in the Jordan Valley. So yeah, we're working that way as well. What about our efforts? Could you say a word about our efforts to control invasive species? Oh, I see we have 1 minute left. I didn't realize we're so close here, but we'll keep going a few more minutes. For those of you who have to leave at the top of the hour, thank you very, very much for joining. Really appreciate it. And this is our last webinar of the year. Hard to believe we're moving into Christmas this coming weekend. And we will be back on, I believe, Erev Tu B'Shvat, that's January 16th, with Yossi Leshem, our esteemed ornithologist, professor at Tel Aviv University. He'll be talking about the barn owls and is the new turtle dove of peace, the new dove of peace. And he'll have a message for Tu B'Shvat as well. So thank you very much, everybody who's been here. There have been over 100 people. I don't remember, I can't see how many are left right now, but thank you very much. And we'll finish up with a couple more questions, Dan, and if you have time. A word about, I'll give you two questions at once. One is about a word about what we're doing against invasive species, plants and animals. And the second question is, are there any rivers that are beyond saving? Are we giving up on any rivers?
About invasive species, I must say I don't want to say we fail, but so far we do not succeed to adapt the policy that we think needs to be taken here in Israel to prevent new invasive species. The law that we try to create is not moving forward. The law is ready. We hope for one of the governments or one of the parliaments to take it and go forward with that. So invasive species situation in Israel is not good, I must say. If we have something we didn't succeed, invasive species is there. What was the other one? If we
are there any rivers beyond saving?
Well, I hope not. We will not be able to take everything, but all the rivers are in our target maps. No. The answer is no.
Okay, I'm going to ask a couple more quick questions that are in the chat, Dan. One of them is important. When is the next bird migration tour that we're offering? March?
Yes, spring festival, the end of March, Eilat, go online, Eilat International Birdwatching Festival, everything is there.
Great. A lot of people thanking us. What's SPNI's position on the wild boar situation in Haifa?
One of the biggest problems of Israel is what we call sanitation. Mammals and animals in Israel, and this is also connected to invasive species, have too much food on open spaces in Israel. This is due to foods that left on agriculture fields because farmers doesn't have the solution how to get rid of it. People garbage in the street. It's not only because people are not putting the garbage in the right places, it's because garbage is taken care in the wrong way in Israel. So the situation in Haifa cannot be solved by, many people think it can be solved by killing or shooting this wild boar. I don't think this is a solution. The solution is to reduce the amount of food, so wild boars will have less food and therefore not going into the cities. The city of Haifa, unfortunately, is not doing enough for that. And so the situation is getting worse and worse, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's sad. Michael Berger asked about how does the agricultural sector get the water they need? I believe it's mostly recycled wastewater. Is that true?
That's the biggest thing, but also using more yeah, exactly,
brackish water.
Brackish water in internal areas like the Rift Valley. But yes, most of the water that can be used for agriculture now is reused water. Israel is taking care, I think, most of its water. We are in a much better situation than most of the world in this. And yes, so this is where most of the water coming from.
Well, that's great, Dan. Thank you very, very much. We had over 100 people here and another dozen or so on Facebook, and we still have 70 people with us. So thank you all for being with us.
Thank you.
This last hour and for the last 2 years and for all the years you've supported SPNI. Dan, thank you very much. We'll have you back for a webinar next year sometime. And certainly your staff has been mostly your old staff in the birding department and your new staff in the nature protection department are our mainstays on this webinar series. So thank you very much. And thanks to all our hardworking board members and the staff in the United States, in Canada, in the UK, and in France. Thanks everybody for a great year supporting us in SPNI. And Dan, thanks for your work and the work of all our field staff. And we will sign off and see you. Stay tuned. We'll be sending you mails. You're still getting appeal letters. We're doing an appeal for our field schools towards the end of the year. We'll be doing an appeal for Tu B'Shvat early next year. Thank you very much for your support now and always. But these webinars are going on hiatus until January 16th. So stay tuned on the emails you will be getting, and you'll keep abreast of our goings on. And we will see you back on this webinar channel in mid-January. So happy holidays, Merry Christmas to all who celebrate, Happy New Year, and we will see you. Signing off from Israel.
And thank you, Jay. Thank you for
thanks.
Great work.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Robin, and everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for all the great messages. Appreciate it. Bye-bye. Signing off.